Welcome into a live edition of Betting Weekly Live on this Wednesday. I am Doug Kezirian, filling in for Mike Carver, who will be back in tomorrow in the host role. So he's enjoying some time with some family. And we have Albert Nguyen sitting in the hot seat. It's been a while. Analytics Capper, you might know him as on Twitter and whatnot, so social media there. But Albert, good to be with you, my man.
Yeah, I'm excited to do this show. There's a lot of sports going on right now, right? So I'm excited to do it and get into some of these bets. How are you doing?
Doing well. Very much better than we were yesterday because we hit the daily double last night of a little plus 251 cashes. So that's nice. And I'm not one to shy away from complaining about bad beats. So it was nice to get the lucky win. So Macero had the rocking chair winner, wire to wire, K-State with the new coach and fading Baylor as a road favorite. He said fundamentally that should never be the case. And then the Grand Canyon team total was starting out great, and then it was shaky. You get a bank three, so I'm freaking out. Not freaking out, but I was like, ugh, we're gonna lose this. The Lopes had 29 points with 3 minutes to go.
Oh,
Did not
wow.
score again. And they were in the bonus. So to get the under 30 and a half in cash, fortunate. Really strong show yesterday. I mean, Macero really could have gone 9-0. He went 7-2 in the picks overall. I was about 9-4, give or take a few leans here and there. But really, really saw the ball well. I will say, so Albert, you got some heavy lifting to do today because I'm not as confident today as I was yesterday. I just really liked all the spots and everything. So hopefully the viewers can certainly extract some winning information, or maybe together we'll bounce off convo off one another.
It's funny how sometimes how that works, to be honest, Doug. Like the days where you're not as confident, the bets actually turn out better sometimes, right? And then the days where you are truly convicted in every single, analysis or lean you have, and sometimes you get bad beats. So I am looking forward to tonight. There are a few games that I'm pretty strong, heavily leaned into right now. So let's get going.
All right, that's good to hear. And they're live in the chat, which I like it. David certainly sympathizing goes, I thought the Grand Canyon was toast when they had 23 points with 8:30 to go. But the Aztecs closed the first half strong. Those are only a good run because Grand Canyon dominated second half. We had some others, and I like it. The Betting Weekly PM bench, nearly as deep as the Yukon women. I like that. Yes, we are a deep rotation. So, Albert, back in the saddle. So again, you're right. I love bouncing ideas off each other. That helps me flush it out. I don't really formalize my picks till after this show because I do like to again flush it out. So keep the chat coming. Maybe get some information. But you said a bunch of stuff going on in the sports world, and that's really the case. So the U.S. men in the quarterfinals right now, we've done some both teams to score in the first period a couple times and everything, but now we're in the elimination round and it's scoreless as the second period is underway. So that's certainly noteworthy with the Americans, and we'll get you some odds. But that's right now. They're playing Sweden again, quarterfinal match. They are the gold medal favorite. I believe Canada advanced or something. So that's what's going on right now with the Swedes. It always throws me off when their flag is SUI. It's a little sidebar. It always kind of have to do a second. You have to do a double take. But Americans minus 250, and the over/under now down to 4. Have you been betting any Olympics here, Albert?
No, to be honest with you, I've done one or two spots, but nothing where I'm actually handicapping it and really getting into it. It's more for fun, to be honest, and that is to me
Yeah.
some of the benefits of watching sports without having action on it, Doug. Like, it allows you to kind of take a step away and appreciate the sport or the game for what it is. But I'm sure gold medal games, I'm sure bigger type events, I'm gonna have a little bit of action on it. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, and speaking of bouncing off each other, it was really helpful to have Carver because he was in the hockey. So that's what got us to flush out some of those both teams to score in the first period, things like that. Okay, so you mentioned a lot going on in the sports world. So we got the update there with men's hockey in the Olympics, but big news in college basketball: JT Toppin left last night's upset loss at Arizona State for Texas Tech, and it's official. It just came down. He is out for the year. So the Red Raiders' best player goes down. Obviously, horrible news. So the futures market will adjust, things like that. But I don't anticipate getting value at all with Texas Tech, as despite how well coached they are. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really tough blow for that team. If he was healthy, right, that is definitely a legitimate contender to win the whole thing. Texas Tech, even though they've lost some, I wouldn't say that they're still a contender to me, Doug, but I still think with their great coaching, with their depth, and that's a really tough place to play, Lubbock, Texas. So they're gonna have the home court advantage from here all the way into the tournament. I don't know. I still think they're a sneaky pick. I don't know if there's value though right now because there might be a little overreaction in the market.
It's just the tournament. I know it's single elimination, so we do see some nice runs, but it definitely ends up being chalk to win it all. This year, there's been a lot of speculation that's really like a top 10 and then a giant drop off. I just don't know if 6 wins can get it done for the Red Raiders. But let's see what the price is. Right now, it's 25-1 at Bet Rivers, but it should be adjusted accordingly in a little bit. We'll see how the market responds as well. Another injury that affects the Big 12. This one announced a couple days ago. Richie Saunders, torn ACL as well. So he's out for the year for the BYU Cougars, who are now visiting the former number one ranked team in the country, Arizona, off back-to-back losses. The Wildcats did lose at home to the aforementioned Red Raiders in overtime on Saturday. So now they got the Cougs in their house. And it's a big number. It's a big number, but BYU shorthanded. I imagine the Cougs are going to run everything through Debansa. What's your read on this game?
I think it's a big number for a reason, Doug. I still like Arizona in this. They are an elite home team. They were 13-0, obviously, before the last game against Tech. I think this is a great bounce back spot for them. I know it could be a potential where they might be overlooking a team like BYU because without Saunders, in my opinion, I don't know how many BYU games you've watched this year, Doug, but it's really just AJ. They go through everything through AJ, and if he doesn't have the energy, if he doesn't have, the focus for a few minutes, that team just falls off a cliff. And I don't know if they have enough to handle Arizona. I do know that their defense is struggling. That was before the Saunders injury. And Arizona, with their, great coaching, with their depth, there's just too many weapons, in my opinion. So I still like Arizona at that number, even though it is big.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that front. One thing I'm very curious about is I think I've mentioned it in a recent show. BYU's sneaky awful on the first half.
Yeah.
9 straight losses ATS on the first half. So even when they came back and covered against Baylor, things like that, they were not good in the first half. And I don't know if they're just slow starters, but I wonder if the Richie Saunders injury changes things because obviously the number's going to change, the team's going to change. Maybe fallen teammate, all that. We get a good response, but that's something I'm keeping an eye on. But BYU in general, Albert, and you mentioned, you have this in our notes. Just they've been brutal against the spread in general of late.
Yeah, they are only 1-9 against their spread in the last 10 games. We had the graphic up there. They're 19-6. They're not a bad team. I'm not trying to talk bad about this 19-6 team, but I think they're one tier below all the elite teams, Doug. And I think they're a team that can beat up on all the bad teams, and that's going to really inflate their numbers from a season perspective. But when they play the Kansases and the Texas Techs and tonight in Arizona, that's when you see their deficiencies really come out.
All right. So that game on ESPN tonight, 9 Eastern. So a late tip. Let's check in on some earlier games. This one on the Big Ten Network. Of course, that old rivalry in the Big Ten, USC and Illinois. Still getting used to the Pac-12 teams in that conference. But I hate this USC team. Them in Wisconsin, I just can't figure out. I've been kind of wrong on almost every game of theirs. Gilbert Arenas' son sort of playing himself into the lottery now. But this is a big number on the road for the Illini. They've obviously stubbed their toe of late and had some injuries as well. Stojakovic banged up. It's a big number. It's a big trip out west for Illinois to kind of get back on track before they head home. I believe they have Michigan next week. Any read on this game for you?
Yeah, so when they played the first time back in January, USC actually won straight up, right? They were 12 and a half point
Wow,
underdogs.
that's
They
right.
won straight up by 10. That was before Arenas even came back, I believe. And the Arenas that we've seen the last week and a half, Doug, he is fully justified to be a lottery pick. I mean, he's had 29, 24, and 25 points respectively in the last 3. He is heating up. I think he's going to continue to do well. Takes a lot of shots, high volume guy, just like his father was. I like USC in this one. I like the points, and think it's a bad matchup for Illinois. I wouldn't be surprised again if they're this huge underdog and then somehow wins it outright. They are at home.
And it's a weird trip out west. We've seen these teams complain. We've seen them lay some eggs. So that is worth mentioning. But we'll see. I mean, I believe in Underwood. We'll see if he's gonna, what the latest is with him. But really strange. And it's for USC. It's them or pass. They're 7-3 ATS in the last 10. Like you said, Arena's starting to come into round into form. So keep an eye on that game. So that's
I
also a
do
late tip.
I
My
do have
mistake.
a question for you, Doug.
Yeah.
Sorry there.
Mhm.
In the professional ranks, when we talk about the NBA, we talk about the LA hangover, right? When teams go into LA, they play the Lakers and the Clippers back to back, but they're in that city of angels. There's a lot going on. Do you believe that in the college ranks as well? Because Illinois is there to play UCLA next, and they're just staying in LA the whole time.
Yeah, I think it's more I don't think it's the party scene like it is in the NBA, but I do think, like, just travel and kinda, like, staying on the road, um, weighs on the legs. So that second game, especially if you're not a good team, does factor in. For example, Penn State, went to Oregon, played well. Sorry, went to Washington, played well, and then the next game they just were flat, and Oregon beat them by double digits. So that's something to keep an eye on for that second game. Maybe they do sightseeing, I don't know, but it's not quite the flu that you get from some of these teams. The Raptors, I believe, that were terrible on a Sunday night in LA against the Lakers, and then they played the Clippers next, and then they bounced back and played great. So a lot of it's just the ebb and flow of like performance, and not necessarily performance outside the arena.
That's true, and then the other aspect is a lot of the players in NBA live in LA, right? So that they could just be
Good point.
coming home and with all those ramifications as well.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Now let's get to one of the a little bit earlier of a tip. We go to the SEC here. Arkansas and Alabama, high scoring game expected with a total of 184 and a half. The tied 4.5 point home favorites here. Both these teams basically 500 on the total. So yeah, the market's really adjusted for these teams that want to get up and down. Obviously, Bama's been in the news lately with some of the eligibility stuff, but if you look at the ATS performance, Cal's team's been great, 17-8 ATS, and this Tide team just hanging on to their national ranking really has not been the same team for Nate Oates. Obviously, we know how analytically driven they are, but look at the tempo. Number one in the country. They want to get up and down, and I think the Hogs will run with them as well.
Yeah, this is definitely a high scoring affair here. I actually got Alabama yesterday, Doug, at 3.5. I still like it at 4.5. Once it gets to 5, I think that's you kind of lose your value there. I want to stay under, 2 possessions. That's the key for me there. Um, and I think this is a great spot for Alabama. I know you mentioned, they're basically 500 on the totals, but when you look at Arkansas and you look at their splits, they're an elite home team. I believe they're 13-1 at home in Arkansas. But when they're on the road, they're pretty mediocre. And I think this is one of those games where Alabama's gonna throw the kitchen sink in it. It's to me, it's Alabama or pass.
Hmm. So that I was just trying to look it up when you mentioned that some of the trends here. It is interesting. We touched on it with teams at home and stuff like that. Certain environments actually matter. Certain actually you get like line value fading teams that are terrible, like a Pepperdine or something like that, because the home court advantage is really just non-existent. But Alabama does have that competitive sort of environment. I think the fan base with the school and the student bodies getting behind them. But I'd like this Arkansas team. They're way better at home. To your point, so at home Bama ATS 4-8 ATS. So,
Mhm.
but again, like laying 14 against a bad team, just it's not really relevant. It's not applicable when it's a short team. It's kind of like we were talking with Michigan, like being a favorite of 2.5 versus like 15.5 at Northwestern. Just those are apples and oranges. So I wouldn't react too much to that. A game I'm actually fired up to fire on is Creighton at UConn. Now, I took the points with the Blue Jays a few weeks ago or a couple weeks ago when they were getting a bunch, 17.5, I want to say, at home. And they had, UConn had St. John's on deck on Friday at the Garden, and then UConn's rolled them by like 30. So I like UConn here. I think this Creighton team kind of stinks. I'm in no rush to bet on the Blue Jays here.
UConn is such a great team, Doug. They're one of those teams. It reminds me of the Kansas City Chiefs in football a couple years ago, where they win every game but they don't cover, right? And it's really frustrating for bettors, especially if you're on a spread to look at that. I mean, if you look at their last 10 games here, I believe UConn is 9-1 in the last 10. The one loss was at St. John's, but in those 10 games, they only covered 2 times. So
Right.
they're one of those teams that does enough just to win. They can name the score, in my opinion, especially in this game. Creighton's just 13-13. They've been pretty mediocre throughout. They're only 2-7 on the road this year. UConn, in my opinion, can name the score here. They can name how much they want to beat Creighton here. But instead of that, I think I like the over here. And the reason for that is because Creighton, I believe, only scored 58 points their last time these two teams faced. I think it was January 31st. 58 points, but the over still flew over, and that's because UConn was able to drop 85 points on them. And I think UConn is going to continue to just play with their opponent here and just score as much as they want. And in garbage time, if you will, Doug, I think that's where Creighton's going to get a couple easy baskets and then get this over to push.
Got a little burned at the Butler game, right? It was like so tight at half. They almost got there. It was like they won by 10. So yeah, they failed to cover 3 straight of the Huskies. And you mentioned the ATS losses. I think we're getting some line value. We just saw Henry in the chat. He likes the Huskies here.
Yeah.
I don't know if this game's in stores or downtown Hartford. I just time of year matters to me. We talked about certain teams kind of ratcheted up. Like Michigan seems to be kind of starting the ascend to peak at the right time. I wonder if Hurley and company is going to get there. Um he had a little Kurt Zignetti moment the other day, kind of like, Google me one of those, like I've done it, I know what I'm doing, one of those kind of moments. I wonder if they drop the hammer. But yeah, I mean, at some point the Chiefs did not cover a bunch, right? It was one score games last year, 2 years ago, that they were great in, and not this year. But ATS, the Huskies have not been ideal. Interesting matchup here. Vanderbilt at Missouri. And Mizzou's been sort of a darling of late covering. We have a home dog situation. And Vandy, the short road fave. What's your read here?
I like Missouri in this one, but the thing I'm worried about in this game is I saw the line. I think it was at 6, maybe 6.5 yesterday when it first came out. It's down a lot, right? 2.5. I don't know if you have the value anymore. They might
Right.
lose by 4, right? You'll be stuck in the middle there. I think Missouri is live today. If I were to bet them, I would just be on a money line straight up. I wouldn't be playing with the points at all. I think at this point at 2.5 at under 3 points, I think you're going to get value with money line anyways.
I understand, and I understand the allure of the Tigers. Now they're 4-2 in their last 6, but against who? Some of these have
Mm.
been a little shaky. Vandy, they're obviously, night and day, home and away. They're great at home. Uh, I'm passing. I'm not on the home dog. It's typically you want to be on these home dogs, but I think the spot has to be really more favorable. Like ASU last night was, you get Tech off that game against Arizona in overtime, and you're getting 8.5 down to 6.5. Much different situation here in Columbia. I'm passing, but I'm just a little gun shy here on the home dog in this particular situation. So that game on SEC Network, little nightcap. So we've definitely had a few games at night. There's a few games that caught my eye. I really like Clemson here. I don't understand. You talk about home dogs. I'm on the road chalk here. I think this Wake team is shaky. I think the Tigers are good. They're off back-to-back losses. So remember, I've talked about how I think often these losses and whatnot come in twos once the dam breaks. So we saw Arizona back-to-back losses. We saw, Clemson here with the back-to-back losses. They had the flat spot against Virginia Tech, which was such a schedule loss at home. Then they go to Cameron Indoor. Now I think they bounce back, and this Wake team is and Clemson's been getting it done. 7-1 ATS on the road. I like Clemson a lot here.
Clemson is the right spot. I specifically didn't look too deeply into this game, but you're right. Clemson coming off two losses, Wake Forest, who is a mediocre team, coming off 2 wins, right? So it's definitely a Clemson spot. I wish this was higher. I think if this was 5, 5.5, maybe 6, 2 possessions there, I think that would make me a little more confident. 4 is in that zone where it's a little fishy to me, to be honest.
Okay. I'm going to lay. I'm surprised the market hasn't moved. You're right. It does kind of stink, but I might have to just jump on it as my best bet. More on that in a moment. Another game that's interesting to me. We talked about George Mason and George Washington last Friday. It was a short card. Mason was a short road favorite at 2.5. Washington was wire to wire dominant, even playing shorthanded. But now they're at home, Mason, and they got Dayton. I think this Flyers team's been really, really weak on the road. 2-6 ATS, and I just don't believe in the Flyers. I think it's been a lost season. The head coach has undergone some personal loss. I like Mason here, -2.5. I think they bounce back. Look, GW, like the whole school, I think, was packed into that gym. It was a great atmosphere on a Friday night. I believe national television. Excuse me, I think it was like on NBC or something like that. But I like Mason here. Do you have any sort of opinion?
George Mason takes care of the ball at home. They're 15-1 in 16 home games this year. You mentioned it. They're facing a Dayton team that has a lot of question marks on and off the court. I think that plays a toll on anybody, especially in at the college ranks. Mason does feel right, like the right side, but again, Doug, like why is the line only at 2? That's the only
Oh,
thing
I
that's
mean, George
kinda.
Mason's still not that good.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think Castro's still out. That's their big man.
Okay.
No, sorry, that's GW's guy. I apologize. My mistake. I got confused with the Friday matchup. Yeah, I don't know. Like Dayton's sort of been decent at home. Like they're not the top of the conference like St. Louis and stuff, but I know what you mean though. Like to be honest, the ATS performance for Dayton on the road's been when they're like favored by like 6 or 7 or 8. That's when they struggle. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
Doug, you know
I
you
like
know how
Mason
I
though.
handicap games. I look at the screen first, right? And I
Yeah.
see if there's any misprice or anything that catches my eye right off the bat without looking at any of the numbers, without looking at any of the analytics. And this didn't pass my initial test. So that's why I'm asking you. I did
Yeah,
do you have a
I think it's just Dayton's not that great.
yeah.
And no, sorry, I think it's Mason's not that great. And it's like it's just one of those A10 games that we see it all the time, like the horizon. Like they're all like 1.5, 2.5, 4.5, Kentucky, Northern Kentucky and Green Bay and all that. But you're right, Mason is higher in the standings, but that's a home and away situation. That's a good point. Like this line should maybe be 3.5, 4.
Yeah. USA men's hockey just scored, by the way. They're up 1-0.
Good. Okay. So that does help. So we'll get a live line for you. And we do have breaking news in college basketball that Arenas for USC is a game time decision. So
Oh,
that line right now off the boards at Bet Rivers. It'll probably be reposted. We'll see what kind of movement it was. Last check, Illinois was a 9.5-point road favorite. So a lot of moving parts in that game. We'll check in on the Trojans. So he's a game time decision. Let's keep it out west and go to the Mountain West, where I got super lucky last night. Boise State goes to Utah State. The Broncos were up 23 points in their last game at home to UNLV. Second half, the live line was 20.5, and they end up losing. Rebels come all the way back. So Broncos blow it. They had been playing great. They were on a 6-1 run in the last 7. Now it's 6-2. I like Boise State here in the first half. Now I know the home court is very valuable in conference play in the Mountain West, but a lot of that's driven by altitude and stuff like that. But I feel like there's been a tax on a lot of these teams. I mean, last night San Diego State was 8.5, and Grand Canyon won outright. We've seen Utah State was laying like 7 or 8 to San Diego State, and they only won by like 3 or 4 against the Aztecs. I think this is too many points. Boise, I think, really wants to get the taste out of their mouth. I like them first half here. I like the Aggies, but 5.5 is pretty high number for a first half. I definitely think it's too high for the game line. So I like first half here. Any read here with this battle of the Mountain West?
yeah, we talked about earlier about Alabama, Arkansas being a high scoring affair. This one is going to be high scoring as well. Pace is going to be high. There's going to be a lot of 3-point shooters all around the court, spread around all the court. I think Boise in their last 10 games are 10-0 against on the over, Doug. So if you're looking for a trend there, look at Boise State overs. They don't really play a lot of defense. And then Utah State, I like this team a lot. I think 10 is too many points, especially if we're going to get into a run and gun type of thing where Boise can hit 3 or 4 threes in the last couple of minutes to make it a little closer. So I like the over here. I'm gonna stick with the trend. There's the whole phrase, not, don't catch a falling knife. It's already gone 10 straight times. Why are you going to do it again? I still think it's an overplay here. I don't. I'm just going to trust the pace. I'm going to trust the amount of shots that are going to be taken up.
Yeah, and Henry chimes in. Boise, not a fan of Boise. They lost outright as a minus 20,000 live money line.
Ooh.
One of the biggest live losses I've seen. I agree, but I think it's a time where you just gotta. Again, we talk about it all the time. Forget what you last saw. I think there's line value on the dog now. Whether they respond, I just like Leon Rice as a coach. And the year started off poorly in the conference. It looked like there was an off year for the Broncos, everything. And I think he kind of righted the ship. Again, that 6-1 run. I think they're back to being sort of like that middle of the pack, upper middle of the pack, so to speak, team. And he's a good coach. And I love his ATOs, all that good stuff. Speaking of the running Rebels who won at Boise, they're at home now. Very short favorite here against Colorado State. Now, this line's gone from 1.5 to 2.5, which I think is a great thing if you like UNLV like I do. Because when you get a 1.5 point home favorite, it's a weak favorite. It's got to be 2 or 2.5. So I always get a little concerned. I like the Rebels here. They are not advisable if you have a heart condition because they blow that 9-point lead against Fresno at home when they were with a minute 20 to go. They've been all over the place. I just talked about the crazy comeback. I like UNLV. In football, college football and mostly pro football, I like teams off an upset win outright on the road coming home. I feel like there's momentum there. I think UNLV's got the stud point guard as their leading scorer and everything. But the bigs, the guy who had the follow-up dunk to win the game in OT, they're freshmen. And this is where we are in the season, mid-February. Teams are allowed to get better, okay? Pastor, he's kind of blown a couple games with his coaching, but he knows the guys are evolving. And I loved what he did with the team when they're down 23. He kept them together, and they kept coming at him. They weathered the storm. And I think they're the right side here. Now, I like CSU's coaching staff, but this Colorado State team's not like Boise, like I was saying. Yes, they're 4-5 in their last 9, but they're 4 wins against Air Force twice, and then San Jose State and Wyoming at home. A little fool's gold right now with the Rams. I think the Rebels have just a ton of athleticism. So I like UNLV here minus the 2.5.
Yeah, Doug mentioned something that's very important. Short favorites at home are not advisable in my opinion. That's actually one of the parameters I look initially, one of the initial criteria. And the fact that this move from 1.5, 2.5 is a really big move in my opinion. So I do agree with Doug. It's a UNLV read. The other thing is they played twice last year. Colorado State won both of them. They played earlier this year. Colorado State won that one. So they're on a 3-game winning streak against this team, and still UNLV is favored. I think those are really, really strong tells by the market. I agree with Doug. I'm going to go UNLV as well. I would actually maybe look at alternate spreads if you have those options. I don't think this is going to be a close game. I think if LV wins, I think they're going to win by going away late in the game.
Right. And look, they've won 3 straight. And, Gibbs Lawhorn missed some games. So I think they're just in a groove. Like I said, they have a ton of athleticism around the rim. They do go through some shooting droughts and things like that. But the CSU team's nothing special. I'm telling you, they're not. Rebels have beat Grand Canyon, then San Jose State, but then they beat Boise on the road. So I think they're in a groove. And again, it's Pastor's first year, new staff, some new pieces. So there's a lot to like right now, I think, with UNLV. I mean, let's temper the expectations, but you know what I mean? They're just one of those kind of mediocre to bad teams that have sort of, I think, turned the corner and playing much better than maybe their power rating would suggest. And this is in the running for one of my best bets. Any other games catch your eye on the card? I know it's a pretty big card, not quite as big as yesterday, but anything else stand out to you that we haven't touched on?
As far as the hardwood college basketball, I think I'm good. Are we gonna get to best bets next?
So we'll do our single best bet at the end of the show. I got
Mhm.
nothing on the women's side. We got there with Ole Miss wire to wire. It was up like 10 after 1. So Ole Miss was laying 1.5 yesterday. Got there in rocking chair fashion. I know you're big into tennis. You've done really well. You gave me 3 winners the other night, 3-0. Anything stand out that, I don't even know where they are in the world right now in tennis. That's what you're for. You're
Yeah,
there
so
for
there's
with me. Okay, Delray Beach there. What do you know? They're stateside.
Yeah, so there's 4 tournaments going on right now. There's 3 in men's and 1 in women's right now. When it comes to Delray Beach in California, I like Sebastian Korda. For those who are new to tennis or just want to dive into tennis, there's a lot of different angles that you can look at. But from a player perspective, Korda is definitely the more versatile one. He's tall. He's like 6'5", 6'6", so his serve is a huge weapon. It's all about his return game. If he can play mediocre on his return games, I think he wins this one pretty easily. So I do like Korda. The other thing about tennis betting for those who are new is sometimes you're going to have to drink the juice. A lot of these spots are going to be minus 150, minus 170. It doesn't really matter, right, Doug, if you win, right, in the end. So I do like Korda here, and I think depending on what outlet you're looking at, you can get him at around a buck 60.
Right. So maybe that comes back from 175 down to 160 at Bet Rivers, but I like it. Take your medicine, drink the juice. Sometimes they're favored for a reason, like we were touching on with Arizona
Yeah.
and BYU. Just a reminder, we obviously have other shows here on the Betting Weekly platform. Game Bet Match is released earlier today, so join Nigel Seeley and Sean Calvert as they share more best bets and angles for the round of 16s at both ATP Rio de Janeiro and ATP Delray Beach. So obviously Albert gave you a little taste, a little appetizer, the match he likes the most, but plenty of coverage for that and also with other shows elsewhere. NBA resumes tomorrow. And this is sort of the home stretch. Teams have about 27 games left on the schedule. The Kings just announced that Sabonis will undergo season-ending surgery. That's on top of Levine as well. So they were an eyesore to watch to begin with, and now they don't have Levine, especially Sabonis, who's obviously all-star capabilities. Not that you would bet them on the futures market, but other NBA that catches your eye in terms of the futures market. Chris and I yesterday discussed some futures to win the division with Charlotte and then also Cleveland, or any early looks to tomorrow's point spreads as well. A couple games caught my eye, but here's the futures market on the screen. Obviously, the Thunder are the favorites. I count 6 teams that I say can win it all, and I do not have the Cavs in there. I was like, miss me with the Cavs and miss me with the T-Wolves. I've seen James Harden in the playoffs all too often, and I think the Pistons are that good and the Knicks are that good. So that's part of the equation. And I think the Celtics have to be considered if Tatum comes back. I know Boston's a 2 seed right now in the East, but I don't think they can really win it all if they don't have him, even if he's like 90% or whatever. He doesn't have to be vintage Tatum. What say you in this regard?
I think we're on the opposite ends when it comes to the Cavs, Doug. I actually really like Cleveland. I think a lot of that spread. I don't know. This is a question for you. Do you think James Harden's history of not performing in the playoffs is built into these odds?
Probably not. I so right now Cleveland's the favorite, I believe, to win the East. And I think what happened is I think I heard the stat. Only 3 teams basically have won it all with a short backcourt. So that's why they made the trade to get Harden, and he can take some of the scoring load. I think it's a regular season move. I think having a guy like Harden where you can kind of like give Mitchell a night off or just run offense through him when Mitchell's on the bench, because he was too much of a one-man show. But honestly, this team breaks down so much. Not only did they lose to Indiana, and that game 1 was a fluke in the second round, but like they fall apart. They crumble. Like, are we assuming that Allen and Mobley are going to be healthy in the playoffs? Are we assuming that Mitchell's going to be healthy? I love Kenny Atkinson as a coach. There's aspects I like about this Cavs team, but I think the Pistons are for real as long as they stop getting in fights. And then I think the Knicks, when the bench is short in the playoffs, I think they're going to be really tough out. Now they start 2 bad defenders for the most part, but I think the Knicks' offense is so potent. So I don't believe in the Cavs. And honestly, like Harden stinks in the playoffs, and he's only playable in the first 5 games. Like you can't play him in games 6 and 7. He's a complete it's the yips.
Yeah,
So I
the key
just
for
don't care.
Cleveland the key for Cleveland to advance in the playoffs is for it to never get to a game 6 or 7, right? They have to win every series 4-0 or 4-1. I agree with you there. I mean, I think we're on the same page when it comes to James Harden, but I would say not from a skill level or a talent levels perspective, but from a fourth quarter, this is my time, mentality. He hasn't had anyone like a Donovan Mitchell, right? Especially in the playoffs. So I think if Harden can play in
We
those
have
first 3
Kawhi.
quarters. What was that?
Hasn't he had Kawhi?
Yeah, but it's different, right? Whereas Mitchell is this explosive, give me the ball, get out of the way type
Yeah.
of player, especially in the playoffs. And you're right. I think the ceiling of this team, and I don't know if people wanna have this uncomfortable conversation now, but I think Evan Mobley has been great, but has been somewhat of a disappointment, right? Because I think he should be. I think if you ask anybody that follows the NBA, they expect a lot from Evan Mobley, who could be, quote
Yeah.
unquote, the next Kevin Garnett or a defense player of the year that can also score 20 on the other side. But we just haven't seen that consistently. And a lot of that, like Doug mentioned, is because of injuries. But if this team does stay healthy, I do think that's the best starting five in the East, including New York. And
Including New York? Okay.
yeah, yeah, and then as far as the West is concerned, I think Wimby's it's going to be his league, but I don't think it is yet. So I would not be putting money on the Spurs in the futures market. But I'm definitely looking at Denver. I think Jokic. I think he's gotten to the point where I think he's maxed out on the number of games he can miss, right, Doug? So he needs to play from here on out every game, or maybe every game but one, to ensure all the awards and the all NBA stuff. But he's rested, is what I'm trying to say. I think he is geared up for the second half of the season, and I think he's going to really be live in that futures market when it comes to the MVP. To be honest.
I agree with you on that. I think you have to roll the dice a little bit, but that's why you're getting a nice payout. Jokic is down to plus $3. I think he was plus 450 like a week or so ago, and I tweeted out. So, but in terms of, so let me ask you this: I have two questions with the West. One is on the Spurs you mentioned. How much of the fact that they've kind of had OKC's number in
Mhm.
the head-to-head, that's like the main reason I'm keeping them in the conversation, because it could just be one of those bugaboos for the Thunder. And the Thunder, by no means, in my eyes, are dominant. Like they stumbled their way through the playoffs the last 2 years. 2 years ago, they got eliminated. Last year, they survived Denver and then survived Indiana in 7 games with the Halliburton injury because they were trailing at halftime, even at home. They're the best team, but this is not like the Warriors with Durant or anything like that. I think they are absolutely beatable, and they're going to have to earn it this year as well. So, what do you make of the Spurs with the head-to-head? Sort of that's what's giving me reason to believe in them.
Yeah, and that's perfectly justifiable to think that way. Me being in Dallas, I saw the same thing. The Mavericks had the Thunder's
Bingo.
number for 2-3 years during the Luca era, and they were never able to beat them, especially in the playoffs. Dallas eliminated them 2 years ago. So I agree with you there. I would say the Thunder, in my opinion, so I agree with the sentiments. I don't think they're unbeatable. I don't think they're far and away the best team in the league, even though they have basically a 12-point differential, which is by far the best in the league. But
Yeah.
I think they're playing a little bit of possum right now. I don't know if they're truly a 500 team in their last 3.5 weeks. I don't think that's reality. I don't think that's true. So I think they're just trying to iron some kinks out. And I think picking up Jared McCain is a surgical move. I think that's another shooter for them that will spread the floor for Shea and team. I think the biggest disappointment here, I talk about Evan Mobley on Cleveland. The biggest disappointment on OKC to me is Chet. I think he should be a lot better. His progression has kind of plateaued as a player, and unless he can either get bigger, stronger, or get more skilled, players like Wemby and Jokic are just going to go to town with him.
Yeah. Good luck with that. My thoughts on Holmgren are well documented, but he's played tough at times. I just think a stiff wind can knock him over. But yeah, the other team I want to mention is because the T Wolves, I mean, their upside, they can beat anyone. They can win at OKC, but they've just been a head scratching team all regular season. And I just don't think they can flip a switch, whatever that is, playing down to their opponent, things like that, leadership, whatever you want to say. I just don't see teams that are that inconsistent be able to go through this Western Conference gauntlet and win 4 out of 7. I just think something's off with that team. As much as I love their upside, they're just too inconsistent, and I'm out on the T Wolves. What about you?
I agree with you there, even though I do like their move to picking up Io at the deadline. I think that's a great
Hmm.
move
Hmm.
to shore up their backcourt. He's very versatile, both on defense and offense. He can knock down shots. But they're giving Conley's back, by the way. So he went through all the waivers and all that. He's back on the team. But they're giving minutes to Conley and Bones Highland. When you do that, I don't think you're a good backcourt. So in my opinion, I agree. They're one step below OKC in that respect, but this is a team that's made the Western Conference Finals, 2 years in a row. So maybe we're just underrating a team that just plays better in the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah, and the bench is shortened and whatnot. I just I think Gobert plays himself off the court too. He can't catch. He's like a 3-year-old trying to throw a ball to him at times at the rim. He just like fumbles it, and his legs or his arms like cross each other as the ball. It's just remarkable to watch at times, and to see him get benched in the Olympics for like Yabusele, who's not even in the NBA at the time. I just can't get over that. I mean, he gets isolated. He gets hunted on defense as a defensive player of the year kind of guy. But Ant, I love, and maybe he's on the ascend. Maybe we're just a little too early with him a couple years ago when they knocked off the Nuggets, rallying from 20 down in the second half in Denver. Update from the Winter Olympics. They've gone to the second intermission. Um, it's 1-0 still. So I'm just saying I'm a little nervous. These weird things happen. All it takes is one goal, right? And then all of a sudden we have a game and it's different. One fluky goal and things can get sideways. And this is the quarterfinals, this is elimination. So I'm a little uneasy here. Now there's, of course, opportunities to get live line. You can lay 670 at Bet Rivers on the money line. You can lay a goal and a half, minus 141. I mean, they're going to get an empty netter, you would think, if they keep pitching a shutout. What do you think about minus 1.5, minus 141 here?
I mean, that's tough, right? When it comes to hockey, I do like the spread a lot because you get a lot of empty netters at the end. But that's something that's I remember I looked this up a couple years ago, and it's probably changed a ton since the advent of analytics coming into all sports. But it hits less than like 33%. So if you're looking for that spread, you need to be hitting at a 66% clip, which at this point, I mean, they're already up 1-0. I don't see any value there.
Okay, I mean, some of that is NHL. This is like obviously you have a
True.
670 money line here. I mean, this is a team that was expected to roll 3.5's the total, but the under is pretty heavily juiced at minus 215, 215. Anything there?
I would say if USA gets through this, like barely, whether it's one goal or two goals, it makes me a lot more bullish on them moving forward. That's what I'll say.
Right.
But if
A little battle tested, right?
yeah, if they somehow, score 4 or 5 in this last period and win 5-0, I mean, then it's expected. Then, at that point, I think all the pressure is going to be a lot more on them. The live line, by the way, is moving. I think people are hammering USA as we speak. So maybe it is a USA play. I at this point, I don't know. Again, I haven't been following the Olympics too
Right. We're
closely,
not watching.
but they are. I mean, they are by far the most talented team.
Yeah, I just wonder. I mean, are they packing the box or whatever the soccer term is? I mean, this is when things get tight. But they got. I mean, I think at some point Sweden's got to overextend itself and leave their defense vulnerable. But maybe that happens at the 10-minute mark. So we'll keep an eye on that. Hey, just a reminder: if you bet with Bet Rivers in New York or New Jersey, you can take advantage of a Champions League bonus bet from Betting Weekly. Enter the bonus code BW216 for a $10 bonus bet to use on Champions League knockout round matches. The code again is BW216, and it's available to Bet Rivers bettors in New York and New Jersey. Offer ends on February 25th. Must be 21. Eligible players only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Let's go to the PGA. We do this on Wednesdays. Carver's usually in the hot seat with some of those picks. I know, Albert, you do a little bit of everything from matchups to top 10s, top 20s. Outrights are always fun. This tournament, it is at the Riviera in Pacific Palisades. This tournament moved last year because of the fires. I believe it's back at the Riv. Any sort of long shot value plays that catch your eye in this, or maybe even just some of the top 10s and things like that?
I mean, it's an LA course. So I'm definitely gonna look at and highlight, Southern California guys who grew up in Southern California. And this happened, I think, a few years back with Max Homa. I think he's live here. I know he hasn't been playing really well. He's been on the YouTube golf circuit, if you will. He's been joining a lot of videos, but at 7,400, 70, 80, to 1 outright, I think there's a lot of value for someone who's won here before. I wouldn't put my money on Scotty Scheffler this week. I mean, that was an unbelievable final round at Pebble. So to come off of that and then expect another, I know he's a machine and he's unbelievable, but you got to expect some type of hiccup coming up. I just don't think there's value on Scotty right now.
Well, I mean, look, his outright is so low, right? Plus 320. So that factors into that. But I will say I'm always impressed with how much he continues to battle. For him to be 100 to
Yeah.
1 at some shop Sunday morning and then to storm back and at least give himself a shot to 21 under, I believe it was. The week before that he was laid an egg, he got finished third.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you see guys like that, like Tiger would be faking a back injury midway through the third round in those situations. And he's like, my back, it's like Judge Smales. I think it's broken. So I give Scheffler a lot of credit to the point where like the next time he blows up on a Thursday, I'm going to bet him top 10, things like that, because he's just like, he's just so passionate and he's a betting nerd. I was watching, I think it was Instagram, maybe it was a YouTube clip, and he was basically nailing all of his stuff on the range, like to the exact yardage. And we're talking like drive 304, and the guy measures like 304.2. He's like, okay, I'll 304 on the nose was the next one. It's like the control he has, his swing. If you look at some still shots of his back and his elbow torque, like it's all the way at the top, and like it's just like ridiculous how far back he can go. So he's just a freak, both physically and mentally. Top five finish minus 137. I'm just going to wait. And we talk about this in all the futures, right? Let's say he goes wire to wire and wins. Okay, so you missed a minus 137 winner. I think we'll live, right? But think about the risk reward and all the stuff. And he's not exactly starting great the last couple of tournaments. Maybe that's part of his warm ups. Maybe. So I would definitely avoid some of these chalky plays. And I'm with you. I'm not taking plus 320 unless the field is just a joke. But you got Rory and all these other big names. I haven't heard any. Don't you have to at least look at Goddard up? I mean, he's been such a beast, especially first round. I mean, some of his matchups and things like that. Is he a guy that's sort of going to enter the upper echelon? Because look, I mean, just a few years ago, Scheffler, his first win was at the Waste Management, right? So he came out of nowhere, had a nice payout, and then all of a sudden, Scheffler's the best player in the world. Goddard up, is he trending there? Where like in 3 months, 6 months, he's going to be of that upper tier where he's going to be like 20 to 1, 25 to 1?
Oh, yeah, I think in the international competitions coming up, Ryder Cup, President's Cup, I think he's gonna be there from just a ranking standpoint. Plus, it's the revival of OU, golf right now, man. Anthony Kim winning, Chris Gotterup winning and contending. I think, it's the era, it's a spring of OU golf. So I agree with you. I think Gotterup is a great look. Some other guys that I mentioned that, are from the California area. Morikawa just won, he's from NorCal. Xander, I think he's the third shortest odds to win this week, which is surprising because he hasn't been playing well at all. So the fact that books are respecting Xander in this tournament is a big deal in my opinion. Maybe a Xander top 20 could be a look there. But yeah, when it comes to these very prestigious, very exclusive clubs, I really look at the golfers that grew up in that region. I think that's one of the things I really pinpoint.
I'm just glad that we like don't have to listen to like Finau outrights and all this stuff. Like, just bet Goddard, bet the guy who's actually delivering. Speaking of guys who don't deliver, Xander. I mean, he did get over the hump and get the gold medal a few years ago, so that was nice to see. And then he did win again, I think, on the actual tour. But I remember doing daily wager, and every week I had to listen to these people, and then I would just sit there giggling at top 10 Tony because he'd finish in the top 10, but never get the W. And then finally he did. So, Goddard and those guys, like there is a skill to actually finishing it and converting it and winning.
Agreed.
And that to see him do it, I think he's a guy that we might sit here in a few months and be like, dude, remember we can get 35 to 1 on this guy and 50 to 1. And by the way, Carver had 100 to 1 or whatever it was the first term of the year where he won. He gave that out on the Friday show, maybe it was, because it was after two rounds or something. So.
Yeah.
So that was certainly impressive on that front. Okay, we've reached that time of the show. Best bets, daily double time, no pressure. Now I will say a week ago, I think I took this Monday I took a money line. I put $1.50 on there because the morning team does some collectively the daily doubles like even money. So I felt getting the juice to 220 or something was not the end of the world. I'm going to go with UNLV. All day I was thinking it'd be Clemson, but you're right. The line's a little fishy for the Tigers. I do think they bounce back and handle their business, but I'm going to go with UNLV. I believe in this running Rebs team. I don't love the CSU squad, but I think UNLV can get it done. I don't like the card in general. So yesterday I would have had about 5 different best bets that I really liked. Today, very sort of like, dipping my toe in the water. So the running Rebs, yes, technically tonight, this is my best bet. But by no means am I going with like, both fists to the window. So I just want to give everyone a little caution there. I don't really like this card that much. What about you? What's caught your eye here?
I'm gonna stay with tennis. I talked about it. ATP Delray Beach. I'm gonna go with Sebastian
Korda, yeah.
Korda right now at Bet Rivers is -175. If you look at the spread, if you look at the totals, there's also bets there, the total amount of games, the total amount of sets. You can even bet a set spread where you expect him to win 2-0. I don't really play with that when it comes to tennis because there's so many times where the superior player, Doug, takes 3 sets to win, right? Takes a set and a half to kind of get warmed up, and then their superiority just takes over. So I just think Korda here is the better player. I do like Alex Michelsen, but not in a this type of environment where he's playing as an underdog. I think he beats up on inferior players. So give me Sebastian Korda. I know is a little juicy at -175, but I think it's a great bet.
Yeah, but the daily double's juicy the other way. Plus 202. So
Nice.
that's certainly a nice payout. We'll cross sport daily double parlay. I like this. And this starts at 6 Eastern, so a little over an hour from now. So you got some early action on the courts. Is this hard court? It's hard court, right?
It is, yes.
Yeah. And then we got some late night tip um, with the running Rebs at home against Colorado State, Little Mountain West. We've been heavy on the Mountain West. I've been definitely attacking that conference. I like it a lot. I obviously first started covering it over 2 decades ago, so I'm kind of somewhat knowledgeable about it, I'd say. But I like this. And look, the best bets present themselves. You're not, it's not like you're choosing this to start the day. They got to present themselves. So sometimes we go to tennis, and I will say betting tennis is a lot of fun. I like golf. In terms of sports I don't typically bet, betting golf is awesome because you can hit a 35 to 1 in a weekend, right? A few days, and 35 to 1 in the NFL is like, I don't know, the Jaguars winning it all. It's like so much harder to hit in other markets. Whereas you can literally hit that, and then tennis, you got action on every shot. Let's be honest,
The
it's
beauty
really
of
awesome.
tennis yeah, the beauty of tennis is if you're a big prominent live bettor, right, you can get plus money on both sides basically several times throughout the match, right? Because
Really,
Korda can go down maybe 0-2 in the first set, and then the odds are gonna be completely changed. The other thing is once they get to a tiebreaker where those 7 points, basically distinguish if you're gonna win that set or not, right? If he goes down 0-2 in the tiebreaker, then the odds are gonna flip, right? So
yeah,
there's
it's
a lot
huge
of there's
swings.
yeah, there's a lot of swings, there's a lot of opportunities to arbitrage for sure.
Yeah. Also, you can be on tilt, and a lot of these players are mental midgets too. Like if they get broken, they can unravel for a few games. So
Yep.
it's amazing to see what happened 1 point, or the ump blowing a call or something like that. They can be head cases, and obviously Curios and those guys are on one end of the spectrum, but it's pretty remarkable to watch. And if you get a little afternoon action, especially on the West Coast, this match starts at 3 p.m. Pacific time. All right, my man. Well, that's going to do it for us. Great to have you sharing your insight. I forget who it was in the chat yesterday, but they were all excited that you were coming in. They're like, "Oh, Analytics Capper's in the show tomorrow." So good to have you back, sharing your perspective on games. So there's your best bet daily double plus 202, and then Carver will be back tomorrow after a little vacay, much deserved vacay. Albert, we appreciate the time. I know our viewers do as well, and obviously keep it here. We'll be back here tomorrow with Mike Carver, 4 p.m. Eastern.